Power is on you, always has been, always will be. Not in your circumstances, not in luck, not in what others say or think, but in you. The moment you realize this, everything begins to change. You stop waiting for permission, stop blaming the past, and stop fearing the future. Because you understand that your thoughts shape your reality, your decisions create your path, and your actions define your destiny. Every challenge you face is not there to break you, but to reveal the strength you didn't know you had. Look, every setback is a setup for a comeback. If you choose to rise, you hold the power to change your mindset, to turn pain into purpose, and to transform your life one step at a time. No one else can walk your journey. No one else can unlock your potential. The power is not coming. It is already within you. So stand up, take control, believe in your worth, and move forward with courage. Because the moment you decide to own your power, that is the moment your life truly begins. Inner power and self-responsibility is the foundation of real transformation in life. It begins with a simple but life-changing realization that everything you experience outwardly is deeply connected to what is happening within you. Your thoughts are not just random mental activity. They are creative forces that shape your emotions, decisions, habits, and ultimately your reality. When you accept full responsibility for your life, you stop living as a victim of circumstances and start living as the creator of your destiny. This does not mean that difficulties, pain, or unfair situations will not exist, but it means that your response to them becomes the turning point of your life. The moment you stop blaming people, situations, or the past, you reclaim your personal power. That is where true freedom begins. Many people go through life feeling stuck, believing that their success depends on external factors like luck, background, education, or support from others. While these factors can influence opportunities, they do not determine your final outcome. What determines your outcome is how you think, how you respond, and what actions you consistently take. Inner power means recognizing that even in the worst situation, you still have control over your mindset. You may not control everything that happens to you, but you always control what happens inside you. That is the space where your real strength lives. Self-responsibility is not about blaming yourself for everything. It is about empowering yourself to change anything. There is a huge difference between guilt and responsibility. Guilt keeps you trapped in the past, but responsibility pushes you toward the future. When you take responsibility, you ask better questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What can I learn from this?" Or "How can I grow from this situation?" These small shifts in thinking create massive changes in your life direction. Your mind is like a garden, and every thought you plant becomes a seed that grows into your reality. If you plant fear, doubt, and negativity, your life will reflect those emotions. But if you plant confidence, belief, discipline, and hope, your life will start to bloom in the direction of success. Inner power is choosing your thoughts carefully, even when your emotions try to pull you into negativity. It is training your mind to focus on solutions instead of problems, possibilities instead of limitations, and growth instead of excuses. Self-responsibility also builds discipline, and discipline builds character. When you stop waiting for motivation and start taking action regardless of how you feel, you develop real strength. Most people wait for the perfect moment, but successful people create the perfect moment through action. Inner power is not loud. It is consistent. It shows up when no one is watching. It pushes you forward, even when you feel like giving up. That quiet determination is what separates success from failure. Another important aspect of inner power is emotional control. Life will always present situations that test your patience, anger, and fear. But when you understand your inner power, you stop reacting impulsively and start responding wisely. You learn that emotions are temporary, but decisions can have long-term consequences. So instead of letting emotions control your actions, you learn to observe them, understand them, and then choose your response. This emotional mastery is one of the highest forms of strength. Taking responsibility also means accepting that your current situation is a result of past decisions, but your future is shaped by today's decisions. You cannot change what has already happened, but you can change what happens next. This mindset removes helplessness and replaces it with action. Every single day becomes an opportunity to rebuild, restart, and realign your life. Even small actions taken consistently can completely transform your future. Your inner power grows stronger when you start believing in your own potential. Self-belief is not arrogance, it is awareness of your capabilities. When you truly believe that you can improve, learn, and overcome challenges, your behavior naturally changes. You start taking risks, trying new things, and stepping out of your comfort zone. Without self-belief, even the best opportunities feel impossible. With self-belief, even obstacles become stepping stones. At the core of self-responsibility is honesty with yourself. It requires you to look at your life without excuses and without denial. It asks you to see where you are, where you want to be, and what is stopping you from getting there. This honesty may feel uncomfortable at first, but it is the beginning of growth. You cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. Once you face reality clearly, you gain the power to change it. Ultimately, inner power and self-responsibility are about awakening to the truth that your life is in your hands. You are not powerless, and you are not stuck, unless you choose to remain stuck. Every thought you think, every decision you make, and every action you take is shaping your future. When you fully accept this truth, you stop waiting for life to change and start changing your life yourself. That is the moment when transformation begins, and that is the moment when you step into your true power. Mindset transformation is the turning point where a person stops living by limitation and starts living by possibility. It is the process of changing the way you see yourself, your life, and your future. Everything you achieve or fail to achieve in life is first shaped in your mind. Your mindset acts like a filter through which you interpret every experience. If your mindset is weak, even small problems feel like mountains. But if your mindset is strong, even big challenges feel like opportunities for growth. This is why transformation does not begin in the outside world. It begins within your thinking. Most people are not stuck because they lack ability, but because they are trapped in old patterns of thinking. These patterns are formed by past experiences, environment, upbringing, and repeated beliefs. Over time, these thoughts become automatic, and people stop questioning them. They start believing things like, I can't do this, I am not good enough, or success is not for me. These beliefs quietly control decisions, actions, and behavior. Mindset transformation begins the moment you challenge these thoughts instead of accepting them as truth. A powerful mindset is not one that never experiences negativity, but one that does not stay trapped in negativity. Every human mind produces fear, doubt, and uncertainty. The difference is how you respond to those thoughts. When your mindset is weak, you accept fear as reality. But when your mindset is strong, you recognize fear as just a passing thought, not a final truth. This awareness creates space between you and your thoughts, and in that space, you gain control. Transformation starts when you begin to question your internal dialogue. Instead of automatically agreeing with negative thoughts, you start asking, is this really true? Or is there another way to look at this? This simple practice slowly weakens limiting beliefs and strengthens empowering ones. Over time, your mind starts building new pathways of thinking, focused on solutions instead of problems, and progress instead of failure. Another important part of mindset transformation is replacing fixed thinking with growth thinking. A fixed mindset believes that abilities, intelligence, and potential are limited and unchangeable. A growth mindset understands that everything can be developed through learning, effort, and persistence. When you adopt a growth mindset, failure is no longer a sign of weakness. It becomes feedback. Every mistake becomes a lesson, and every setback becomes preparation for a comeback. This shift completely changes how you approach life. Instead of avoiding challenges, you start embracing them. You understand that discomfort is not a signal to stop, but a sign that you are growing. People with a strong mindset do not fear failure because they understand that failure is temporary. but quitting is final. They keep moving forward even when progress is slow, because they trust the process of improvement. Mindset transformati. On also requires discipline in what you consume mentally. Every day, your mind is influenced by what you watch, listen to, and think about. Look at your negative environments, toxic conversations, and constant comparison can weaken your mindset without you even realizing it. On the other hand, positive learning, inspiring content, and constructive thinking strengthen your mental foundation. What you feed your mind becomes the quality of your thoughts, and your thoughts become the direction of your life. One of the strongest aspects of mindset transformation is learning to control self-talk. The way you speak to yourself shapes your confidence and identity. If you constantly criticize yourself, your mind starts believing you are incapable, but if you start encouraging yourself, your confidence grows. Self-talk is like internal programming, and you have the power to rewrite it. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," you begin saying, "I am learning how to do this." This small change builds resilience and courage over time. Another powerful shift happens when you stop comparing your journey with others. Comparison often destroys motivation because it makes you focus on where others are instead of where you are going. A transformed mindset understands that every person has a different timeline. Your only real competition is your previous version. When you focus on improvement instead of comparison, you experience peace and consistent progress. Mindset transformation also involves emotional maturity. It teaches you that you cannot always control what happens, but you can control how you respond. Instead of reacting emotionally to situations, you learn to pause, think, and choose your response wisely. This ability gives you stability in stressful situations. You stop being controlled by emotions and start using emotions as signals rather than commands. A strong mindset is also deeply C. Pawn. When you look at your tinnitus to persistence, many people give up just before they are about to succeed because they cannot see immediate results. But transformation teaches you that growth takes time. Success is not a sudden event. It is the result of consistent effort repeated over time. When your mindset is aligned with patience and persistence, you continue even when results are not visible yet. Another key element of mindset transformation is belief in possibility. If you believe something is impossible, your mind will find excuses to avoid it. But if you believe something is possible, your mind will start searching for ways to achieve it. Belief acts like a direction setter for your actions. It influences what you attempt, how much effort you give, and how far you are willing to go. Ultimately, mindset transformation is about becoming aware that your life is not controlled by external events, but by internal interpretation. When your interpretation changes, your experience changes.
Your experience changes.
You begin to see challenges as lessons, failures as stepping stones, and difficulties as part of growth. This new way of thinking creates strength, clarity, and confidence. When your mindset transforms, your identity transforms. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is limited and start seeing yourself as someone who is evolving. You realize that you are not fixed. You are always becoming. And once this truth settles in your mind, you no longer fear change. Instead, you welcome it, because you understand that every change is shaping you into a stronger version of yourself. Taking control of your life means shifting from a passive observer to an active creator of your reality. It is the moment you stop letting circumstances, people, or past experiences decide your direction and start deciding it yourself. Many people live their entire lives reacting instead of leading. They wake up each day and respond to whatever comes their way without intentionally shaping their future. Taking control breaks this cycle and places you back in the driver's seat of your own life. It is not about controlling everything that happens around you, but about controlling your response, your choices, and your direction, regardless of external conditions. A large number of people feel powerless not because they are truly powerless, but because they have surrendered their decision-making power to external influences. They allow opinions of others to define their confidence, allow fear to stop their actions, and allow past failures to shape their future expectations. Taking control begins when you realize that no external force has the power to define your worth unless you allow it. The moment you stop giving that permission, your inner strength begins to rise. One of the most important aspects of taking control is awareness. You cannot change what you are not aware of. Many patterns in life continue simply because people never stop to question them. They repeat habits, thoughts, and behaviors automatically. Awareness is the first step that breaks this cycle. When you become aware of your thoughts, you start noticing which ones are empowering and which ones are limiting. Once you see them clearly, you gain the ability to choose differently instead of reacting the same way every time. Taking control also means accepting full ownership of your decisions. This can be uncomfortable because it removes the comfort of blaming others. It is easy to blame circumstances, family background, education system, or luck for where you are in life. But blame keeps you stuck. Ownership, on the other hand, gives you power. When you accept that your current situation is the result of your past decisions, you also accept that your future situation will be shaped by your current decisions. This realization is life. Look, you're changing because it shifts your focus from complaining to improving. Another important part of taking control is breaking free from fear-based thinking. Fear often disguises itself as logic. It tells you things like, it's not the right time, you are not ready, or what if you fail? While caution is important, excessive fear becomes a prison. When you take control of your life, you do not eliminate fear. You learn to move forward despite it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in the presence of fear. Every time you act despite fear, you weaken its control over you. Taking control also involves building discipline. Discipline is the bridge between intention and achievement. Many people have goals, dreams, and ideas, but without discipline, those remain only thoughts. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when you do not feel like doing it. It is choosing long-term success over short-term comfort. When you develop discipline, you stop depending on motivation, which is temporary, and instead rely on commitment, which is stable. A key part of control is learning to manage your time and energy. Time is one of the few resources that cannot be replaced. Every moment you spend is a moment you will never get back. Taking control means being intentional about how you use your time. It means focusing on activities that move your life forward, instead of wasting energy on distractions that lead nowhere. When you take responsibility for your time, you take responsibility for your future. Another powerful element of taking control is emotional regulation. Life will always present situations that test your patience, anger, and stress levels. Anger and stress levels. But if your emotions control your actions, you lose control of your life. Emotional control means pausing before reacting, thinking before speaking, and choosing responses that align with your long-term goals instead of short-term impulses. This ability creates stability in your life and prevents unnecessary mistakes. Taking control also requires letting go of the need for approval. Many people live according to expectations of others, family, friends, society, rather than their own values. While lunch from others can be helpful, your life decisions must ultimately come from your own understanding of what is right for you. When you constantly seek approval, you give others control over your choices. But when you trust yourself, you regain authority over your life path. Another important shift happens when you stop waiting for the perfect moment. Many people delay action because they believe they need ideal conditions to start, but perfect conditions rarely exist. Taking control means starting with what you have, where you are, and improving along the way. Progress comes from action, not from waiting. Every step forward creates clarity, while waiting only increases confusion and fear. Taking control also means accepting that failure is part of growth. Instead of avoiding failure, you begin to see it as feedback. Every mistake teaches you something valuable about what works and what doesn't. When you stop fearing failure, you become more willing to take risks, Try new things and step outside your comfort zone. This willingness is what leads to real progress in life. Another essential part of control is consistency. One strong action does not change a life, but repeated actions do. Consistency builds. Habits build character, and character builds destiny. When you consistently show up for your goals, even in small ways, you gradually transform your life. Look, taking control is not about dramatic changes in a single day. It is about steady progress over time. At its core, taking control of your life is about understanding that you are not a passenger, you are the driver. You cannot always control the road, but you can always control the steering wheel. You decide your direction, your speed, and your focus. When you fully accept this responsibility, you stop feeling lost and start feeling empowered. Life becomes less about what happens to you and more about what you choose to do with what happens. And that is where real transformation begins. Turning challenges into strength is one of the deepest forms of personal growth a human being can experience. It is the ability to look at pain, difficulty, failure, and pressure not as something that destroys you, but as something that destroys you. Most people naturally try to avoid challenges because challenges feel uncomfortable. They bring uncertainty, fear, stress, and emotional pressure. But what many do not realize is that the very situations they try to escape are often the same situations that contain the greatest potential for transformation. Life does not strengthen you through ease. It strengthens you through resistance. Just like muscles grow through pressure and resistance training, the human mind and spirit grow through challenges and adversity. When a challenge appears in life, the first reaction is often emotional resistance. One mind begins to question why this is happening, why now, and why to me. This is a natural response, but it is not the most powerful one. If a person stays in this state of resistance for too long, the challenge becomes heavier than it actually is. The situation itself may be temporary, but the mindset of victimhood can make it feel permanent. However, the moment you shift your perspective from why is this happening to me, to what can this teach me, to what can this teach me, everything begins to change. The challenge does not disappear, but your relationship with it changes, and that shift is where strength begins to form. Every challenge carries within it a hidden lesson. Sometimes the lesson is patience, sometimes resilience, sometimes discipline, and sometimes clarity about direction. But the lesson is never visible at first because it is covered by discomfort. It is only when you stay with the situation long enough and stop running from it that the lesson begins to reveal itself. People who grow the most in life are not those who avoid difficulties, but those who stay long enough to understand what the difficulty is trying to develop within them. In this way, challenges become teachers, even though they do not speak in words. Another important truth is that challenges expose your inner strength. When everything is going well, it is easy to feel confident and capable. But true strength is not measured in comfort. It is revealed under pressure. A person may not realize how strong they are until they are placed in a situation where strength is required. That is why difficult times often reveal abilities, courage, and endurance that people never knew they had. In many cases, individuals discover their real potential only after facing situations they thought they could not survive. This discovery is one of the greatest gifts hidden inside struggle. Turning challenges into strength also requires changing your definition of failure. Most people see failure as the opposite of success, but in reality, failure is part of success. Every successful person has failed multiple times, but what separates them is not the absence of failure, but their response to it. Look at your failure is not a statement about your worth. It is feedback about your method. It shows you what does not work so you can move closer to what does work. When you stop personalizing fail, and start learning from it, you remove its power to break you and instead use it to build you. There is also a deep connection between challenges and mental toughness. Mental toughness is not something you are born with. It is something you develop through experience. Every time you face a difficult situation and choose not to give up, your mind becomes stronger. Every time you feel like quitting but continue anyway, your resilience increases. Over time, These small decisions build an unshakable inner foundation. A strong mind is not one that never struggles, but one that refuses to break under pressure. This strength is built quietly through repeated exposure to challenges. One of the most powerful transformations that happens through challenges is the development of patience. In a world that encourages instant results, challenges slow you down and force you to grow step by step. At first, this feels frustrating because progress may seem slow or invisible. But patience teaches you that real growth takes time. It teaches you to trust the process even when results are not immediate. This patience later becomes a powerful advantage because it allows you to stay consistent while others give up too early. Challenges also build emotional depth. When a person goes through pain, disappointment, or loss, they begin to understand life on a deeper level. This emotional depth increases empathy, wisdom, and maturity. You begin to understand not only your own struggles, but also the struggles of others. This understanding makes you more grounded and more connected to life. Instead of judging others quickly, you start recognizing that everyone is fighting their own unseen battles. In this way, your own challenges expand your awareness and compassion. Another important aspect of turning challenges into strength is learning self-reliance. Difficult times often force you to deep, and less on external validation and more on your own inner resources. You begin to realize that while support from others is valuable, your survival and growth ultimately depend on your own mindset and actions. This realization builds independence and confidence. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you and start becoming your own source of motivation and direction. Challenges also sharpen clarity. When life is easy, people often become distracted and unclear about what truly matters. But when challenges arise, distractions fall away and focus increases. You start prioritizing what is essential and letting go of what is unnecessary. Difficult situations force you to simplify your thinking and concentrate on what truly needs attention. This clarity becomes a powerful tool for decision-making and personal growth. Another transformation that comes through challenges is the development of gratitude. When you experience hardship, you begin to appreciate the value of simple things more deeply. Health, peace, stability, and small moments of happiness become more meaningful. Challenges remind you that nothing in life should be taken for granted. This sense of gratitude does not remove difficulty, but it balances it with appreciation, making life more meaningful overall. Over time, as you continue to face and overcome challenges, your identity begins to change. You no longer see yourself as fragile or incapable. Instead, you start to see yourself as someone who can endure, adapt, and overcome. This shift in identity is extremely powerful because it changes how you approach future challenges. What once seemed impossible begins to feel manageable. What once created fear begins to create confidence. Ultimately, turning challenges into strength is about transformation of perception. The situation itself may not change immediately, but your interpretation of it changes completely. You stop seeing challenges as obstacles and start seeing them as opportunities for growth. You stop asking life to be easier and start asking yourself to be stronger. And in that shift, everything changes, because life does not always become easier, but you become stronger than what you face. And when you become stronger, every challenge loses its power to break you and instead becomes a stepping stone toward your highest potential. Self-belief and action together form the bridge between dreams and reality. Without self-belief, even the strongest actions feel weak because doubt quietly drains energy, focus, and consistency. And without action, even the strongest belief remains only a thought, a hope that never takes shape in the real world. This is why true transformation happens only when belief and action work together in harmony. Self-belief is the inner foundation that tells you that you are capable of growth, capable of learning, and capable of becoming better than your current situation. It is not about thinking you are already perfect or already successful, but about trusting that you have the ability to improve no matter where you start. Every great achievement in life begins with this inner trust, this quiet voice inside that says, "I can try." even when everything outside seems uncertain. Most people underestimate the power of self-belief because it does not look physical or visible, but it controls everything that is visible in life. The way you speak, the way you act, the risks you take, and even the opportunities you notice are all influenced by what you believe about yourself. If a person believes they are not capable, they will avoid challenges, hesitate in decision-making, and settle for less than they deserve. But when a person believes in their potential, they begin to explore possibilities, take initiative, and push beyond limitations. Self-belief acts like an internal permission slip that allows you to step into new experiences. Without it, you keep waiting for external validation. With it, you begin to trust your own judgment and capabilities. However, self-belief is not something that appears instantly or permanently. It is something that must be built and reinforced through experience. Every small success strengthens it, and every small effort contributes to it. When you take action, even in small ways, you send a message to your mind that you are capable of doing things. This is how belief becomes stronger over time. On the other hand, when you avoid action, your mind starts reinforcing fear and doubt. That is why people who delay action for too long often lose confidence in themselves. It is not because they are incapable, but because they have not given themselves enough evidence of capability. Action creates evidence, and evidence builds belief. One of the most important truths about self-belief is that it does not require perfection to begin. Many people wait until they feel fully confident before starting something new, but confidence is not the starting point. It is the result of starting. When you take the first step, even with fear, even with uncertainty, you begin to develop confidence naturally. Action reduces fear because experience replaces imagination. Before taking action, fear is based on imagination of failure. After taking action, you gain real feedback, real experience, and real understanding. This shift from imagination to reality is what dissolves unnecessary fear. Action is where transformation becomes real. Without action, thoughts remain abstract, dreams remain distant, and intentions remain unfulfilled. Action is what turns internal belief into external results. It is through action that ideas become skills, and skills become success. Even imperfect action is more powerful than perfect planning without execution. Many people spend years thinking, planning, and preparing, but very few actually move forward consistently. The difference between those who succeed and those who remain stuck is not intelligence or talent, but willingness to act repeatedly even when conditions are not perfect. When self-belief and action combine, a powerful cycle begins. Belief leads to action, and action strengthens belief. Each step forward builds more confidence, and that increased confidence leads to stronger action. Over time, this cycle creates momentum. At first, progress may feel slow, uncertain, or even difficult, but momentum builds quietly. Once momentum develops, progress becomes more natural and less forced. This is why consistency is more important than intensity. A single strong effort may create temporary change, but consistent effort creates lasting transformation. Another important aspect of self-belief is resilience in the face of setbacks. When you believe in yourself, failure does not destroy you, it teaches you. Instead of seeing failure as a reflection of your identity, you begin to see it as feedback about your approach. This shift is extremely important because it prevents failure from turning into self-doubt. People without self-belief often interpret failure as proof that they are not good enough, which leads them to quit. But people with self-belief interpret failure as part of the learning process, which leads them to improve and continue. In this way, self-belief protects your journey from being stopped by temporary setbacks. Action also plays a key role in shaping identity. You do not become something just by thinking about it. You become it by practicing it. A person does not become disciplined by wishing to be disciplined. They become disciplined by taking disciplined actions repeatedly. Similarly, confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you build through doing. Every time you act in alignment with your goals, you reinforce the identity of the person you are becoming. Over time, these actions shape not just your results, but your sense of self. Self-belief also influences how you respond to opportunities. When you believe in yourself, you are more likely to recognize opportunities that others might ignore. You are more willing to take risks, try new paths, and step into unfamiliar situations. Without self-belief, even good opportunities can feel intimidating. With self-belief, challenges become invitations for growth. This difference in perception can completely change the direction of a life. At the same time, action teaches discipline. Discipline is not something that comes from motivation alone, because motivation is temporary. Discipline comes from commitment and repetition. When you take action regardless of how you feel, you train your mind to move beyond emotional resistance. Over time, this creates strength and stability. You stop relying on feelings and start relying on habits. This shift is essential for long-term success because feelings fluctuate, but habits create consistency. Another powerful truth is that action reduces overthinking. Many people suffer not because they lack ability, but because they think too much and act too little. Overthinking creates confusion, fear, and delay. But when you start acting, clarity begins to appear naturally. You begin to understand what works and what does not. You learn through experience instead of imagination. Action simplifies decisions because reality gives you feedback that thinking alone cannot provide. Self-belief also grows when you stop comparing yourself to others. Comparison often weakens confidence because it focuses your attention on other people's progress instead of your own growth. But when you focus on your own actions, your own improvements, and your own journey, you build a healthier and stronger sense of self. Everyone has a different path, different timing, and different challenges. Self-belief strengthens when you respect your own journey instead of measuring it against someone else's life. In the long run, the combination of self-belief and action leads to transformation that is not just external, but internal. You do not only achieve goals, you also become a stronger, more confident, and more capable person. You begin to trust yourself in ways you never did before. You start to understand that your potential is not fixed, but expandable. You realize that your past does not define your future, and your current limitations are not permanent. Ultimately, self-belief and action are the two forces that turn possibility into reality. Belief gives direction, and action creates movement. Brought together, they create progress, growth, and transformation. When you truly believe in your ability to grow and consistently take action toward that belief, you step into a life where change is no longer something you wait for, but something you create.